Hey everybody, I was just going to do another live video and kind of show you guys what I'm doing today. So I had this 2009 Chevy Silverado come in a little while back, and one of the things I did to it was looked at the traction control light that the customer had coming on. What I ended up finding was a fault code for a steering angle sensor. That's a pretty common failure on these, and there's actually an issue with the connector where it goes onto the steering angle sensor. Pin fretting can happen, which is basically microscopic corrosion on the pins. So I put a steering angle sensor in it. I replaced the pigtail or the pins for that sensor, and a little while later the customer reached out and said, hey, that message came on again. So got the truck back in the shop and found that it had the same fault code in it for that steering angle sensor. So I realized at that point it was obviously something a little bit more in depth. So I got in, my first step was to voltage drop the circuits between the steering angle sensor and the EBCM, which is the computer that monitors that sensor. So I got underneath the truck, and the connector for the EBCM was held on by these zip ties. So that was kind of one of those, that's interesting moments. But I logged that away in my head and proceeded with my test. The voltage drop on all 6 of the circuits for that sensor was good. So that means the wires between the EBCM and the steering angle sensor didn't have any issues. And then I just kind of kept digging, kept poking. Actually, during my test, I lost communication. I could not communicate with my scan tool, with the EBCM, the electronic brake control, or the fuel pump control unit. So digging through the wiring diagrams, I found that those are all run on the same data link communication through the EBCM. So that really everything pointed right back to the EBCM. So I found the issue. It's a very interesting one, so I wanted to do a live to show you guys. So I'm going to go into the truck and we'll see if we can't make this thing happen. So if you watch the scan tool here, I have the key on right now and I have everything connected. And if you remember, the issue was the steering wheel position. That was what was throwing a fault code. So I was monitoring that. I'll move that so we can see that data a little bit more. You can see it's at 253.1 right now. So I'm going to reach my hand up and actually just simply push in on the connector on the EBCM. And as I do that, you'll see that jumped to 19.8. Which is actually the position that the steering wheel is in right now. If I let go again of the connector, so I'm simply just holding it. If I let go, you'll see it jumps back to 253. Now, if you remember, that being the fault code that was setting, that means that the circuit is actually has a connection issue right here at the connector. So if I push in again, the truck, it operates just fine. If I let go, it loses. If I wiggle that connector just a little bit, doesn't take much, it jumps to the default, which is negative 281. And eventually what will happen is it'll lose communication. So no communication with the EBCM. So and there you hear the truck warning me that the issue happened. So what is going on is the connector here on the EBCM. You'll notice if I push in on it, it goes in a little bit, 1/16 of an inch or so, a couple millimeters, and that's when everything's working fine. When I let go of it, that slowly gets pushed back out by that weather seal, and it loses that communication. The reason is this lock is supposed to lock the connector in place, and you'll notice the tab that lock is supposed to engage is missing. So what we'll have to do, unfortunately, is replace this EBCM, and that should bring the truck back to life and resolve these intermittent issues. So, yeah, that's what I found. Just wanted to show you guys. This is kind of a fun, interesting one that really had me banging my head on the wall for a little bit, but I ended up finding what the issue was, and hopefully we can get it all fixed up for the customer. So if you guys have any questions or thoughts, feel free to leave some feedback. Thanks for watching.